Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS and Shout Out Show. Listen, I hope everybody's having an amazing Sunday. I hope you had an amazing Saturday and an equally amazing Friday. Listen, the weekend comes and goes so quickly, brothers and sisters. So let me say up front, thank you for tuning into the show. I mean, the hours are getting longer in the day, but it also means that you got to handle your business, and Monday is right around the corner. That said, brothers and sisters, I'm happy that you're here. So let me welcome everybody again. Welcome to the SOS to Shout Out Show. Now, why I am the host, I said that I'm not the owner of the platform. No, this is a platform. This is a community platform. What I mean is, while I may present ideas and expand on ideas and expound on ideas, believe me, everyone here has the right to speak. Get in the comment section, voice yourself. I tell people if it's your first time coming on the Shout Out Show, don't be intimidated. Don't be intimidated. Get in the comment section and express yourself. Let us know who you are, because we're going to let you know who we are without fail and unapologetically. So as we get this thing going, brothers and sisters, I want to give a shout out. I didn't get to do it, but I want to give a shout out to the Marvin Hagler family. One of the best middleweight fighters in the world passed away. As well, there's a couple people I want to shout out that are doing some good stuff. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Sherman Jackson, who I had a great conversation with earlier today. And I want to give a shout out to my pops. I had a good shout out, a good session with him this morning, and my mom, who blessed me by listening to one of my concepts and critiquing me as she does, as a mother can only do. So that's it. If you're coming on the show for the first time, do us a favor. Click the subscription button, notification button, like button, whatever button's down there, click it. You know, we're just trying to grow this thing. But it's funny when I say that because the show's been growing without me. The show's been growing because people tune in, but it's growing because the people who are part of this eclectic that I'm about to introduce you to, you know, these people are expanding. You're learning more and more about them, their likes, their wants. I have to reiterate that the 300 show anniversary was amazing. Just to be able to take everybody out of the comment section and put them on the screen and have that fellowship was amazing. And we're going to do it soon again. We're going to do it again. So let me start shouting out some people. We got Sister Ree. Sister Ree is doing some fellowship work out in Bryant, Texas. Her friend passed away. Please give your friend our condolences on the loss of her mother. Man, we appreciate you going out there, taking food to her. That is just a beautiful thing, a wonderful thing. We got my brother, my little brother, JT, Johnny L. Thomas, my main man, a big supporter of the Shout Out Show, but also, man, big supporter of Preacher Mars. You know, a lot of you guys see me and doing shows and da-da-da. And it's nice, you know, the people come to see you. The people, they've seen you on whatever, the videos or YouTube or things like that. And they reach out and have, well, JT and I used to do shows where people didn't know who we were. He wasn't even a comedian. It was just two black guys showing up. I remember we had to do a show in Lincoln, Illinois. We did a show in a train, brothers and sisters. It was a model train. So this thing is not, I'm not saying it's luxurious, but I'm saying it's good to have brothers who understand what the pain and the struggle are when you're trying to come up as a comedian or come up as an artist, or even if you're having your own business, how you're trying to come up that way, or if you're going to school and trying to get a profession. Everybody who's there for your struggle, those are some of the most important people that you can have, because those people will remind you in some regards when you get a little big-headed, or remind you in some regards when you're not grateful that, hey, you remember how this thing used to be? Point taken. And I want to give a shout out to my sister, Umisa Mami. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you and the family are doing well. We haven't talked in a minute, but I hope things are going well. My Caribbean sister. And my main man, Altaf Rashid, all the way from Toronto. He comes with, he needs no passport. He needs no border. There's no border this brother can't breach when he's coming to the Shout Out Show. And he comes on time. I got to give you some love, Altaf, man. Hope everything's going well for you, brother. Again, glad to see you on the show, and we appreciate your presence. Next up, Sister Ika coming all the way from Indonesia, brothers and sisters. And when I say coming all the way from Indonesia, she's coming all the way from Indonesia early, because I think it's 5 a.m. there. Either she's getting on the prayer road or getting off the prayer road. But Sister Ika, for you, for your daughter, your son, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Looking great, fam, Bahamian. Oh, oh, we feel love. Okay, good. And hug those babies for me. Hug those babies for me. Appreciate you coming on the show. Oh, yeah, that's a great story. JT and I were. I know I'm supposed to get into my topic. I'm gonna get into it. When you talk about showing up to a town, our thing, JT and I, when we were young, much younger, we would go to a town and we like to work out, and we like to play ball, and we play against each other most of the time. This particular time in Lincoln, Illinois, which I told you that's where the show we did to train, and the people had to sit in booths. It was the weirdest thing in the world. We showed up and the two white guys there, and they were like, "You want to play?" Now JT can hoop, I can hoop. So we're like, all right. So I mean, we are lighting these guys up to the point they get so frustrated that they racially tagged us as professional basketball players. They were about to fight. They were like, "You dude, watch him. You friggin' Jordan." And the other guy was like, "Well, I'm over here with Pippen." So JT would be Pippen. I was Jordan. I thought it was racial because I think it was light skin, dark skin, but that's not the point. It was funny. It was funny because we did kill him in basketball and we enjoyed it. I really wanted to take out my NOI uniform and play in it, just to make this thing even more official. So let's get to our topic today. The topic today is getting back up when it all falls down. Getting back up when it all falls down. Now, I'm going to actually give a little credit. One of my favorite Kanye West songs is When It All Falls Down. There's a lot of information that he's giving you in that song. My favorite quote is, "It seems we're living the American dream, but the people highest up have the lowest self-esteem." Great line. Great line. I don't know if people get a chance, just go back and listen to that album. I mean, before it got off the track and 808s and stuff, it was a great album. It was a great concept album. But I was talking to my father this morning. I was on the track, and I was telling him about the subject about getting back up when it all falls down. And what we came out to what we came out to the fact is like there's a certain randomness to when you have hardships. Like there's a certain randomness to when you have hardships. Like we see hardships around us, if you will. So and so may lose their job. So and so may lose a family member. Some so may have some physical ailments. There's a randomness to it. And I think the thing that it's always hit me is like, you know what? We don't necessarily recognize the hardship because it's not ours to fully own. This is not totally our hardship or our difficulty. And that's fine, but it's interesting that when it does come to us, how people handle it. And I say when it all falls down, people, I'm gonna tell y'all a story one time. This is the funniest bad luck comedy story I've had. Okay, I got fired off the George Lopez tour. Okay, so essentially, I had left teaching at his behest, took a leave of absence, so I didn't have a teaching job anymore. Got into it with his manager. His manager told a whole lot of lies George was afraid to face. Long story short, I got fired. So essentially, I went from having 6.5 months a week, 6.5 months of work to having zero work. I mean, 6.5 months of work to having zero work. JT was there. He knows what I'm talking about. And essentially, I had no teacher. At some point, I had to go back to substitute teaching. And I mean, my biggest fear was that I was going to have to substitute teach at the school I left. I was worried about that. It didn't happen. But I pulled this gig one time. I was living in Long Beach, and a guy calls me up. He goes, "Listen, I heard your problems. I'm calling all of these bookers." That's the thing. And it was hard. When you book 6 months of work, that work is packed solid. So when you lose it, it's hard to get it back because the next week comes. So you move to the back of the line. I had this gig outside of some weird town outside of Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know, it was Hoover. Was it Birmingham, Tuscaloosa? It doesn't matter. Any event, I'm broke as the 10 Commandments, brothers and sisters. And when I say broke, you have to figure out how much gas you're gonna take to get to the show. And I used to say how many hotel nights you have. because sometimes you didn't have a hotel night. You just have to sleep in the car and you work out a deal with the truckers at the truck stop. I'm gonna sleep for 5 hours. I'll watch you, stuff like that. So I finally get here, and when I say my car is running on fumes, that's when you cut it off at the stoplight to save gas. That's how bad it was. I'm cutting off my car. I'm like, this is a long light. I'm gonna cut the car off. So, brothers and sisters, I pull up to the club to introduce myself to the man and say, thank you for hiring me, blah, 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 blah. There's a commotion as I start going down the street. I'm like, what's going on here? And you see people running this way, and you see police. I'm like, oh, this is bad, especially for a small town. And I'm like, what is going on? And I pull up, I go past it, I park my car, and I look at the address, and oh my goodness, the address where I'm supposed to be working this weekend is the place that's on fire. It seemed like everything was burned up except my picture that was looking at me like, you ain't working this weekend. And I sat there, and I was like, man, if it wasn't for bad luck, I have none at all. And we talk about when it all falls down. People, I barely got gas. I'm looking at now, I can't really even do a hotel because I need that money. I spent my hotel money. I'm like, and I'm not going to get paid. So I don't even have the money to get back home. I don't even have the money to get to, I don't have the money to get back home. I don't have money, period. And it was funny because you're sitting there and you can get in. And I tell everybody, when you're going through hard times, don't deny you're going through hard times. It's okay. Acknowledge what the difficulties are. I had an argument. I had to acknowledge my difficulties. And at some point in time, in acknowledging my difficulties, I started laughing. And the reason I started laughing, I was like, you a comedian. In any other circumstance, this would be funny, except it happened to me. So I was sitting here and I was like, wow. And I remember this particular time because the owner says, listen, I feel bad about you not working, but obviously I'm not going to make any money, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, man, I drove out here from LA. I need to work. The owner goes, what can I help you with? I said, well, you can't give me all of it. I said, but listen, can you bump me for a hotel? Just two nights of hotel. So he's like, here's $100. So it was 2 nights of hotel, 2 nights of food. So essentially, I stayed one night. JT doesn't know this. I stayed one night and I kept the rest of the money to show up to Milwaukee. I know he's like, preacher's in town. Yeah, that's a famous, I just showed up to Milwaukee thing. Now, why am I telling you that story? The reason I'm telling you that story, because I, like most of us, many of us, are very well versed in the idea of getting up when it all falls down. Again, we may be in our feelings, we may be like this. I said, but it's an interesting thing. Like for me to make the decision to go to Milwaukee as opposed to drive back to LA, okay, so it's a financial decision, but it was also the fact that I'm looking at proximity. I'm looking at if something happens in the Midwest, I know people in the Midwest, as opposed to having to go to Utah and all those places, New Mexico. And the thing that was really, really interesting was this. I didn't fret because I was like, I've been through this before. I said, I literally have been through this before. And the interesting thing about getting back up when it all falls down is that we have rehearsed in some way, shape, or fashion. We've rehearsed when it goes bad. We've rehearsed when it doesn't work out. And I'm not talking about negative, but this is reality. You can have a show, a comedy show. You can have 200 seats. Your rate of probability is you can sell 1 ticket or you can sell 200 tickets. And I've done my own shows, brothers and sisters. I put my rent money on the table and said, I'm going to have a show, and wound up selling not hard enough tickets and barely been able to pay my rent. But it's the idea that in some regards, 1, you have the courage to do it. 2, you have the confidence to do it. And I don't know if we talk about that enough when we're talking about getting back up when it all falls down. The confidence to get up and the courage to get up. You know, COVID was something, okay, for a lot of people, COVID was something they couldn't see. COVID was something that befuddled the mind. But I specifically remember movies that talked about COVID-like situations where there was a virus that attacked the United States and it devastated our population, our people, our children, you know, and it was interesting. I said, because we've been through this before. They say that art imitates life. I believe that, but I say also art imitates expectation. Let me say it again. Art imitates expectation. And what I mean by that is we play the probability game. If we're smart, if we're logical, if we have reason, we all play the probability game. And it's not that we're saying it could all go bad. A lot of us are saying it could all go right. We can sell those 200 tickets. I can't show up to that club, brothers and sisters. I can show up to that club and it not be on fire. It may have been the building next to it. And up until the time you see that this is reality, we are constantly in a space where we're pushing. We're pushing. We're making our way to this situation scenario. And it's a beautiful thing. I think sometimes these days, and correct me if you're wrong, I think that people talk too much. I think about people talking too much. The probability of something going wrong as opposed to the work involved to find out whether it's going to go right or wrong. We talk about probability and more so than we talk about the work. The chances are as opposed to the effort in. You know what I'm saying? And I'm bringing this up because the idea of people, to me, who woke up every day knowing it's already falling down, not that it's falling down, but there are people willing to keep you down. There are factions of laws and people and attitudes of folks that want to keep you down. I said, this is amazing to me. You know, all the years, and I digress a little bit, but I think it makes sense. You know, all the years as a road comedian, let me say this carefully, a road comedian, JT he knows what I'm talking about. See that trip to get to Lincoln, Illinois, we leave at 5 a.m. to beat the traffic out of Wisconsin and get through the traffic in Chicago to get down on 55 to start going south. But it was a discipline to get us there. And I would say this and add, and anyone can jump in, that the idea of getting up when it all falls down is not by chance. You don't get lucky that way. It's not luck. It is, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say it's a skill set. To be able to take chaos and place this here, place according to whatever your situation is, that is skill. And I would say in this whole pandemic, I'll speak for myself, I became a lot more skillful. And people I talked to became a lot more skillful because they understood the probability, one, but they also understood above the probability is the work that has to be involved to make the probability a reality or deny the probability so that the bad thing doesn't happen or it doesn't happen at a certain scale. And I look at it, I look at it, you know, and let me give a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my main man, Adam. I missed the brother before him. I'm sorry. Macy Hustle. All right, Macy Hustle, welcome to the show. All right. And Mary Moss, thank you so much. My mom said I'm bounce back Jack. Well, my mom has been there. My mom has been there through car crashes. I you know, one of the funniest, you talking about when it all falls down. I was making the move from Milwaukee to LA because I want to be a big time comedian. Everybody was saying, you got to leave Milwaukee and come out with the big dogs. I'm like, yeah. Now I'm like, I'm going to do it. Now, you know, we had some family issues that hampered the send off. But I left. I finally left, and I was going to move out. And I remember leaving and heading out, and all right, South Central in the house. So the interesting thing was I'm going to California. I left Milwaukee. I'm coming through Colorado. I actually have money. This is a big deal right now. I actually have money to get to California. But you don't want to get too comfortable. You don't want to get too comfortable. Thanks so much, you miss it. It snowed this particular day. And it was snowing, but it's not like you had the weather report stuff. You couldn't look at it on your phone. You couldn't predict like that. I mean, I would literally have to look in the newspaper to see what the weather was going to be like. And on this road, I drove a really, really good space. I left Milwaukee, got all the way into Colorado, and I'm like, I'm going to shut it down, get some rest. It snowed. And in Colorado, because it snowed so much, they don't really use ice on the road. They put salt on top of the ice. So long story short, I'm driving along. I'm outside of this place called Lyman, Colorado. I'm driving along and I hit a patch of ice. The problem is I hit a patch of ice, dry road, patch of ice. And my car is now, I can't do anything with it. You can't brake. You can't speed up. You're on the ice. It's doing its thing. And it starts turn. I'm going straight, but then it starts turning. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. Uh-oh. And when it finally got that way, of course, it flipped over. So my car flips over, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times, right? 4 or 5, 6 times, who knows? It lands on its hood and burrows into the ground. Now, thank goodness I'm not a big guy. And really, all praise to the Lord, I wasn't hurt. I was banged up, but I wasn't hurt. But I'm alone in the middle of Colorado on 70. My stuff is, my car is wrecked. It's total. And I have my eyes closed. I'm like, am I dead? I'm like, and I open it up and I'm like, okay, I'm upside down. And I hear these voices outside going, do you think he's dead? And I yell out, shut up, I'm having a moment. So I climb out of the car. And I'm sitting here going, wow. I mean, it's surreal when you have to go down a highway and pick all your stuff up. And I remember calling my mom, calling my dad. I was like, yo, I had this accident. I totaled it. And the question was, so you give your parents the stuff, but your parents know. You're like, okay, so what are we going to do now? And I'm like, oh. And I knew what I was going to do. I was like, I'm just giving you guys the details. I wound up renting a car from Denver Airport, drove out to California to do this gig at it's called Ray Appleton's Comedy Club. And I got out there and he had booked me. I got out there and found out they were double booked. It was a 2-man show. It's 3 of us there. And Ray forgot. And Ray was cheap. He was like, I double booked you. I'm sorry. He didn't say, I'm sorry, here's your money. And I'm like, dude, I just totaled my truck, getting out here. I'm not happy. Let's just say I'm not happy. And the guy, his name was Dave Coulier. Dave Coulier from Full House. Big shout out to Dave Coulier. He saw the look on my face. And I was kind of resolved to like, look, I made this far. If you don't want to pay me, Dave Coulier says, wait a minute. He says, listen, you were driving from Wisconsin. You totaled your truck. You grabbed all your belongings. You put it in the back of a rental truck. You drove out here to California, not just California. You got up to Fresno. You got here on time. He goes, you're not going to leave here. He said, you were working. He said, I will give you part of my salary. And Dave Coulier, true to his word, paid for my week at that club. Big shout out for Dave Coulier. But what we talked about was when things fall down and how we get back up. And I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it because summarily, I've hung around people who have great get up stories. My mom with her health and some of my friends and things like that, they have great get up stories. Miss Eleanor has a great get up story. I know guys who are on dope and drugs and heroin, and they're doing amazing things. I know guys who used to steal crack. And I know a guy in my neighborhood. Hey, JT, remember the time we were coming back in Milwaukee on 21st Street, and you said, "Preach, is that your car?" Because you didn't recognize it because the driver's side window was busted out. The last time I was in Milwaukee, I saw that guy. And he told me what was going on. He busted my window, took my radio for drugs. I get it. I totally get it. Can we put this comment up from Maxine Cade, our sponsor with BeFinanciallyIndependent.com? Let's see. Nelson Mandela, Denzel Washington, other icons have said in essence that is not how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get up. And it's interesting. It's interesting because so many people forget this scope of how you get up. I remember watching a baby try to walk, and I wanted to help the baby. Now, of course, you can't do anything with development. A baby's development is a baby's development. And I remember walking over to this specific little baby, and the baby was trying to balance itself. And I went to grab the hand, and they slapped my hand. Like, what you see me trying? Get your hand out. I'm working it out. And all I could do was kind of laugh because I'm like, that's what it is. This whole thing with COVID and the economy, what it is it sharpens this whole idea about how we get up. Because for years we've been floating around. They tell you that there've been other COVIDs beside this COVID-19. There were other COVIDs going around, other strains of flu. We've had illness and death around us for however long. And just the whole idea of economy and things like that. We've had these issues before. I'll never sit here and tell you that this is my first time. Oh my gosh, I've never been broke. Of course you've been broke. I left the teaching job to be a comedian. The only thing that's worse than that is leave a paying job to be a teacher, because that's a vow of poverty. And I owe this to my ancestors and the big shoulders that I stand on right now. All of my heroes, family included, have always developed and shown me a pathway of how you get up. And I'd say this, as we choose our friends, as we come to this pandemic, don't suffer people who refuse to develop pathways of how you get up. Don't suffer people that question your pathway of how you get up. And for goodness sake, don't give yourself over to people who don't have a way to get out. So look, I'm going to get out of here because it's Sunday, and y'all pray for me. This is a big week, and I'm going to tell you why. Some of y'all going to laugh, but this is my week, brothers and sisters. This is my week that, inshallah, by next week, this time, I will be on my way to officially getting my master's in Islamic education. It's been a long road, a lot of starts and stops and things like that, challenges, if you will. But it means a lot because there have been a lot of people on this journey with me trying to get this. And again, what does it come down to? When it falls down, you got to get back up. All of y'all been around me, and the things I've had to go through, on the show, off the show, and here we have this thing. It's just it's like this holy grail that says, yeah, that's why you keep doing it. Let me shout out Umisa real quick. When I said don't suffer, means don't put up with people. When I said don't suffer people that do, it means don't put up with people like that. Just so you know. All right. So let me give a shout out to our sponsor, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you want to know about financial advising, but also this whole scope of when you have money, You work hard for that money. What you want on the other side is you want your money to work hard for you. Then go to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, or you can go old school and call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. So listen, you guys have been great. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And remember, it's not about getting down. It's about getting up. So I'm Preacher Moss. It's the Shout Out Show. That's Potluck Sundays with Preach. You guys have been amazing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I salute all of you. Have an amazing week. Take care now. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody, this is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your Shout Out Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next Shout Out Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Altar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out TarifAltar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.